Okay, I'm the chairperson of Western Region Environment Network. If anyone here wants to know a bit more about our organisation, then contact Alex and she can pass your details through to me. If you want to go to slide 6, Peter. Yep, okay, pesticide spraying. Can everyone see that slide? Anyone who can't? Okay. Okay, Marjorie Apthorpe is here tonight, and from the Joondalup Coastal Community Care Group. We had notification of widespread sea deaths by the Joondalup Community Coast Care Forum in early 2007. Western Region Environment Network, we formed in November 2006, and Alex and I were one of the founding members. We had our meeting at the Captain Stirling Hotel in November 2006 with quite a large group of community environmental groups in the western part of Perth. I live in Wembley Downs in the City of Stirling as well. So we had notification of tree deaths by the Joondalup Coastal Community Care Group in early 2007. So together we had joint meetings and we developed some strategies. We had meetings in I think Wembley Downs and a meeting in Subiaco, and there was so much communication between the two environmental groups because of the tree deaths that occurred in the cities of Joondalup and Stirling. And if anyone's got any queries or that as we progress through this presentation, then please just sing out or put your hand up, because this is supposed to be interactive as well. So we had many trees were reported, dead trees in sumps in Wembley Downs, where I live, and throughout the City of Stirling. And we had approximately 8,000 trees were affected across both council areas, including many chert trees. So we had chert trees in Carrinup, Scarborough, Wembley Downs. I saw trees in sumps in Bowga, at the shopping centre in Bowga. There was widespread tree deaths right across the City of Stirling, but not as bad as Joondalup. If you drove across the boundary and up some of those side roads there where the sumps are in Joondalup, you would have seen massive defoliation of trees along the sump boundaries, and that's big trees like chert trees, like trees like that. I don't know if there's a chert, I can't see it at night time, but you had trees as big as that or bigger that just died, and they were adjacent to sumps. A number of private residences were declared contaminated sites under state legislation. I checked with Slater and Gordon, who also ran the class action for the residents in Esperance with the lead poisoning. So I contacted Slater and Gordon, who've done a lot of class actions. For a possible class action based upon the economic devaluation of the properties, how they declined because of the limited number of cases. There was attendance by myself at many council meetings with the City of Stirling, asking many questions and considerable coverage received in the local press, in the Post and the Stirling Times, particularly in the Stirling Times. So I'll pass a couple of these things around as I progress this if you just want to pass them around. But Lisa, if you want to pass that through. That was the front page of the Stirling Times. It shows me and another resident in Wembley Downs who were in front of trees that had died in a sump close to where I live. I went to over about seven council meetings in 2007, and when I presented the petition in September and again November 2007, I actually asked 10 questions to the Mayor, who was Terry Tysack at the time, and not many people can get away with 10 questions. I got away with 10 questions. At the end of the day, they just shut me down. So there was a lot of press coverage in the Stirling Times. There was like tree loppers taking down the trees that had died. There was a whole raft of articles. The Stirling Times gave it a lot of good coverage, and they must be applauded at that time. And Karen Valenti was the editor, and Karen and I were very close, and she was great as the editor of Stirling Times, and she actually gave us excellent coverage throughout the whole City of Stirling. So we initiated a community petition with 3,300 signatures seeking the banning of pesticide spraying throughout all public areas. And I'll pass that petition around because it looked at covering quite a number of different issues about the banning of pesticides, about better regulations in the City of Stirling in terms of spraying, etc. And we advertised that in the Stirling Times as well. There's a copy of an advert in the Stirling Times, and Liz Reed, who's a councillor in the City of Stirling, also signed off and authorised the petition that went around. So that was distributed right through by community groups, but particularly by myself, right through the City of Stirling, at shopping centres, etc. If we have the next slide. Any questions on anything to date? This gives you a sort of a historical perspective of how we progress things, yeah?
I was just clarifying what do you mean the stormwater?
Yeah, stormwater drains. There's stormwater drains right throughout the City of Stirling. You often miss them if you don't notice what a sump looks like, then you'll miss it. But once you know what a sump is, particularly after this episode here, then every sump you'll recognise and see, and they're all over the metropolitan area and probably country towns.
You were saying that Slater and Gordon had declined taking on the case because there were
too few cases, and they're trying to get an economic valuation of the property when it's listed as contaminated under the Department of Environment Conservation legislation was a bit difficult. There was probably about 10 contaminated residences that were backed onto the sumps that were declared contaminated because of the hexacinone chemical that was used by the contractor for the weed spraying within the sumps.
So it sounds to me like you need a huge number of cases, which in fact defeats the purpose of people being able to go to a lawyer.
That's right. Well, people felt defenceless. So, I mean, the problem is our community's been so disempowered that a lot of people, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to respond. They only respond when they have to. So you needed something so on such a large scale like the lead poisoning in Esperance and all the bird deaths that occurred in Esperance, to really be able to get the departments, the state government departments and then the local government down there and the Port Authority to actually do something. And that took years. And there was a cultural change, a behavioural change with the Port Authority, and they changed their board around as well. So these things don't happen like that. They take a lot of community action. And I support Father Peter, his father, is it? Or, yep. I support what he's doing here. I think that's absolutely brilliant. To stand out amongst the community, put your flag up and say, this is what we believe, these are our values, this is what we stick by, and we've got the support of people in the community. Because what he's talking about with the house over the road is exactly how Alex, Leisha and a lot of us feel about these issues. Anyway, we'll move on to the next slide. So presentation of petition September and November 2007 at full council meetings. We weren't very happy with the outcome of that, so we organised a meeting at the City of Stirling, meeting community members and council representatives including the CEO, Stuart Jardine, Mayor David Boothman was the mayor then, and a number of councillors in December 2007 presentation of the City of Stirling can be leaders in pesticide management, along with many questions. So one of the community members who lives in Woodlands, she put that together and we presented that to the City of Stirling at that meeting. One of the council meetings was about how to be good managers in pesticide. Be leaders in pesticide management, and there are a lot of examples there from North America in terms of the reduction and the phasing out of pesticide chemical use, exactly like Peter's done here. The threat of defamation by the contractor in late December 2007, I spoke at a sustainability meeting at Netherlands Council, and I got a letter from his lawyer, John Hammond, on Christmas Eve in 2007, threatening defamation if I didn't apologise. Then I went to I got some legal aid from one of the legal firms in Perth, and they supported me. So I went quiet for a little time, but not for long. But that's what happened. The contractor, he threatened me with defamation. So it got quite serious. I made a formal complaint to the CCC, Corruption Crime Commission, in January 2008 regarding the contract with COS. So I went to the CCC in St George's Terrace, and I presented a lot of evidence that I felt was very unsatisfactory about the way the City of Stirling and the contractor handled this whole issue. The contractor was sacked in Joondalup, and Margie would support that. The contracting firm was sacked in Joondalup in late 2007, and they took an action in the Supreme Court. However, the contractor was successful in re-tendering the City of Stirling in late 2008. And that was absolutely appalling. And I fought tooth and nail to try and get that overthrown in terms of the contractor getting re-tendering and being successful. When you're sacked in the City of Joondalup, and they took him to the Supreme Court, but the court action was thrown out. The City of Joondalup withdrew their action because they had problems with evidence, and also the fact is that the City of Joondalup, like the City of Stirling, probably knew that the contractor was using that chemical. I presented evidence to the City of Stirling, evidence to say that back in 2005 they knew that they were using this hexacinone, this chemical, which was totally unsuitable for a sump type environment to kill weeds. That's if you agree or disagree on whether they should be used anyway in sumps. These days I think the City of Stirling does their slashing with the whippersnipper and with the weed control and all the sumps. The DEC conducted an investigation of the tree deaths in 2007-2008, and witness statements were taken for a court case under state legislation. And that wasn't the Wildlife Conservation Act, that was the other Native Branch Clearing Act legislation. However, this was suspended through lack of evidence. So the DEC, a bloke called Ken Rain, he and another investigator came to my place. I got witness statements from a lot of residents in Wembley Downs, and we presented the witness statements, and they did that from quite a number of people throughout the city. And unfortunately, the major investigator, he had a mental illness some time later, and the DEC withdrew the action because they didn't have sufficient evidence. So it was a very unsatisfactory outcome for all concerned, particularly with an authority like the Department of Environment and Conservation withdrawing from this case. Next slide, please. The City of Stirling performed the so-called trial of high-pressure steam. We talked about hot water. Non-chemical weed control in Nullarbor in 2008, and that was about an hour or 2 hour trial. Jeff Eves is a director of community infrastructure. He sat there at a full council meeting and said the weeds just blew away. And I took the council to task many occasions about their trial of weed spraying in terms of non-chemical use, like the City of Frio and the City of Netherlands do, with hydrothermal steam heating of weeds, killing the weeds. So this is a long saga, and Alex and I are involved in a lot of this sort of stuff for quite a long period of time, and other community members. In 2009 we wrote to the Minister for Local Government requesting they conduct independent investigation in the City of Stirling. It was over quite a few issues, and particularly with this pesticide spraying. The Minister for the Environment asking that she expedite the DEC inquiry into the tree deaths, that was Donna Farrar. The Minister for Health on several occasions with a considerable number of recommendations requesting significant change to health pesticide regulations. And I won't go into the responses, but they're all pretty negative, and they didn't really achieve what we desired in terms of getting some tougher, stringent regulations right across in terms of their use. So we raised the issue again, calling for the banning of pesticides in public areas at a special electors meeting in July 2009 with a petition of 2,500 signatures collected throughout the city. And I'll just pass that one around as well. That was a special electors meeting. So there was a special electors meeting, and one of the items was about the issues that were still unresolved from our satisfaction, stemming back to 2007. And there was a number of residents at that meeting. City of Stirling did a presentation. I stood up and spoke about the issues I was concerned about, quite a few environmental issues, particularly trees on private land issues, as well as the pesticides. And we voted no confidence in City of Stirling. Next day, the City of Stirling put a media statement out, criticising me for wasting $10,000 of ratepayers' money. So since then, we've had little behavioural change by the City of Stirling since both petitions were lodged. They've added the chemical weed spray chemical components, glyphosate, to their advert, and there's a copy of an advert that I've got here from the Stirling scene, or whatever, Stirling, whatever it is they call it. They have a larger advert in local papers and also include an exclusion zone if requested by residents. So there have been a few changes, but the cultural change has been very slow, and it really hasn't achieved the things that we really wanted. So I suppose there's the few things will come out of this meeting. That's the size of the advert they had in the Stirling Scoop several weeks ago. Certainly a lot bigger, and they actually list down what the chemicals are, and they also talk about the fact that they mark off the areas which have been sprayed. But certainly not the type of recommendations we put forward in 2007 and again in 2009. So that's a bit of a story about the history of pesticide spraying in the city from 2006 to my knowledge up to the present day. So anyway, thanks very much for that. If anyone's got any questions, put your hand up. Yeah? They don't actually say what they are on the advert. I just sent an email to Jeff Beeves yesterday asking for an exclusion zone around my property, and that's something that you might want to take up here and debate about City of Stirling residents, or writing in and even going on their street and asking people to sign a letter, like Leach's and I had a talk about earlier. Alex probably got some ideas too, about people, particularly in the City of Stirling, getting their suburbs declared pesticide free. That's something I was looking at doing, is going into south suburbs like Wembley Downs, Woodlands, Joondalup, Nollamara, and trying to get residents there, capture them at shopping centres and get them to say, we want this suburb pesticide, herbicide free in public areas. I mean, the ovals, you'll have a fight, and I will fight to get the ovals pesticide free, but the streetscapes, the verges outside schools, public areas, shopping centres, that's a start. That's a start. And this government here is 30, 40 years behind the times, the state government and local government. So, anyway.
What about birds and lakes?
Oh, I don't believe in any chemical should be used around lakes. I don't believe any chemical should, I know they do too, so it shouldn't be used any, and friends of Lake Cleanwater did the same to get rid of a lot of couch grass. They had to get rid of the couch grass. And they really had to start from scratch. They had to go back and try and unwind what had happened with the lake and the deterioration of the environment there 30, 40, 50 years. And it's hard. Sometimes you've got to make a tough call, say we'll do it, but as a once-off. And then we got to continue doing the maintenance and the hand pulling and the controls, like Peter's saying. You never control it completely, but you'll control most of it. Alex? Yeah, I finished. Yeah, thanks very much for that. Yeah. And that was held in July 2009. I took the petition. I actually stood down at Dog Swamp here and got signatures and had them in the one of the shops there, or quite a number of the shops.